Excellent. All right. Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming up to our second Ryzome Office Hours. Um, Looks like we have a pretty small turnout today, but that's totally okay. Just for the record, this Office Hours will be recorded and will be made available on our YouTube channel and Twitter as well. So if you couldn't make it to today's call, that's totally okay. We record all of these office hours so that you get a chance to catch up and get up to speed on all the ongoings with the Rhizome app and our plans for the future and what we're working on. For today, it's me, Tachi, who will be the main host. We have Stoffer here, who is our guest host today. He's also the CTO of Playgrounds and senior engineer for the Rhizome application. And so the objective for today's call, again, is to do a quick recap on everything that we're working on with Rhizome, the changes that are being made, the feedback that we're working on, and also just do a walkthrough on the current state of Rhizome in the canvas, and also what we have planned over the next coming weeks to months. Stoffer, could you do a quick mic check?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, can hear you. It's a little choppy, but we can hear you.
All right. I'll see if I can tweak some things. I know this better.
Yeah, it's just a little echoey, but that's okay.
Okay, 1 second.
Awesome. So while you're fixing the mic, I'm just going to go ahead and get started. All right. So just to do a quick recap for those who are new and who might be listening to this in the future, what exactly is Rhizome, and what are we trying to accomplish with this application? I think a quick top level, elevator pitch to describe Rhizome is it's a visual interface to do your best work, plain and simple. But if you want to go a little bit lower, it's an AI-augmented visual interface where you provided the tools and AI capabilities to brainstorm, research, ideate, generate new ideas, and work hand in hand collaboratively with AI agents today and in the future with your colleagues and other agents as well. So our goal is, how can we design an interface that makes it easy to do your knowledge work, bring in research information, bring in context, bring in data and content from, multiple sources, and have all of that in one place for you to mind map, for you to think, for you to process, for you to have AI agents help you, process the information and generate new thoughts and ideas and outputs. So you can imagine if you have a ChatGPT or a Claude interface, but it's completely visual, and you're able to connect ideas in a visual way. We think that this is much closer to how humans think and how humans process information. And this is why we're optimizing for a different way to leverage AI systems or AI agents for your daily work. And so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we can do a quick walkthrough. Make selection, share screen. Awesome, sharing my screen. And so the first thing that we have is, of course, you have the website. Anyone can get started by going to canvas.ryzome.ai. And in there, you have all the information you need to know to get started or understand what Rhizome is all about. We have information on the different nodes and the different aspects of Rhizome. And a big part that makes the Rhizome ecosystem or the Rhizome interface unique is that MCPs or tools are baked in to the entire environment. And so now you're able to use agents alongside services that you use already for your day-to-day work. If you're in a crypto space, then you'll be able to plug in CoinGecko's API into your environment and have your agents work with you using the CoinGecko tools. If you use Discord for your day-to-day work, whether you have conversations or there's services that you manage on Discord, using the MCP tool, you'll be able to pull that and plug that into your Ryzome canvas, Firecall and Fireflies for audio recording, GitHub, and the list goes on and on and on. Our goal is to make sure that the available tools that you can use alongside your AI agents are readily available and easy to access in a much more intuitive and simple way. So this is a key part of using Ryzome and why we think Ryzome is really special. We support major AI models like OpenAI's GPT models and Claude, and our plan is to eventually support a much more larger library of AI models like Perplexity or Gemini, and eventually local models like Llama 3. Okay, so that's the website. To get started, just go to canvas.ryzome.ai to get up to speed. But then let's go ahead and see what the interface looks like when you log in. To log in, you simply click the login button, and we've made it really easy for you to sign in. You can sign in with GitHub, Google, Discord, or just manually. In this case, I will use Google. Click Google, and you're presented with your dashboard. On your dashboard, while it loads, you are immediately presented with some simple getting started templates to help jog your intuition on what you can do with Ryzome. And then on the bottom, you have the ability to create and edit existing canvases if you've already created one. Also, if you go to the templates section on the nav bar, you navigate to a templates page. Here we have a growing library of available templates that we'll continue adding to, and those will be built by us and eventually the community on different kinds of workflows that are available for you to get started with. There's the simple workflow, automated compliance checklists, which, for example, in this case, is best suited for people in accounting or legal team or HR who want to use AI to augment how they, manage compliance and manage their information on their own policy documents. What's really interesting about templates is you can essentially clone a template to get started really easily. Let's say, for example, I want to clone the automated checklist template. I will simply click on it and hit the replicate button. And when I do, I'm immediately taken to that page to get started. So now it's loading the canvas, and I'm presented with, first of all, if I'm a new user, an onboarding process that essentially gives you a quick recap on how to navigate the Ryzome environment. So in this case, I can simply click the tabs, and I get GIFs that shows me how to use the application. Let's go ahead and click out of this. Once you click out of this, you're presented with all of the content that you need. Let's do a quick recap on navigating this entire environment. On the left side, you have your node side panel, and this is where you have access to all of the nodes and capabilities that you need to use for your work. So if you highlight text, you have the text input node, which allows you to write text and pass that to an AI agent. A file input node, which allows you to upload files such as text, CSV, Markdown. Eventually, we'll support PDF. We have Docs and DocX and Excel spreadsheets. And web page, which allows you to load a website and pass that to your agent. We also have the AI node section, which allows you to essentially work with text-based agents and vision agents. Text-based agents are essentially like ChatGPT, which allows you to send a prompt and work with the agent. And vision agent specializes in processing images like OCR or uploading an image to work with. And then we have the response visualization and more templates for you to get started. So that's the sidebar and how to navigate nodes. We've also made some improvements. Since we've launched Ryzome, we've given the ability to duplicate a workflow. Why is this necessary? Let's say, for example, you've spent hours or days building the perfect workflow, but you want to modify it, maybe make a different version of that. You can easily duplicate a completed workflow that you're really happy with, and then you can essentially work with the new version while retaining the state of the original version. We built this because of the feedback we've received from our users who essentially love to have multiple versions of their workflow, and they want to essentially have branches so they can have, the ability to change the design or the structure of a workflow while maintaining the original version they had. So that's the new feature we've added to the system, duplicate. Before running this, let's go ahead and go over the steps that are necessary currently to running a canvas. So as I said earlier, we replicated the automated compliance checklist and we presented with the canvas. To run this, you would first need to configure your credentials. So to do that, you would go to your settings, click settings, and in here is where you will select and configure your AI model for your agent. I already have one set for OpenAI, but if you're a new user, you would simply click add credentials, you give it a name, and then you'll get your API key, whether it's a GPT model API key or a Claude model, and then you select the provider. In this case, we currently only support Anthropic models and OpenAI models, but in the future we will support more. And then you can set a default so you don't have to do this over and over again. Once that's done, that's all you need to do. So let me go ahead and click edit. In this case, I would make this the default and save changes. Okay. So let's go back to our dashboard and work on that canvas that we had replicated earlier on. It was the automated compliance checklist. To do that, you can access it by just going to the dashboard page, scrolling down and finding that canvas that you already replicated. So I'll click on that and we're brought back here. So in this case, I have a sample document that was passed in. I have the agent, I have the visualized text, and the process of running this canvas is pretty simple. It reads the document, for example, the example policy document, passes that to the agent, which we've already configured a model. So in this case, I'll select OpenAI and say that's the one I want to use. And running this is pretty simple. You can run an agent directly here, or you can run the entire canvas if you want all of the content to be run at the same time. Let's go ahead and delete this and say I want to just have a file input node in here. It's that easy. Let me do that again for repetition. You go to the sidebar, you select the node you want, in this case text input, and then you either click or you drag. So in this case, I would drag text input onto the canvas, and now it's there. Connecting them is also really easy. You get on the handle and you drag and connect, and now this agent is aware of this node. So let's say I say, hello, my name is Tachi, and that's the content of this node. It's now connected to the agent, and I can send a prompt to the agent and say, hi, what's my name? And like I said, there's two ways to run this. I can run this for this agent alone, or I can run the entire canvas. Let's get started with just running the individual agent in this case. If I click run, what's going on now is it is reading the information or the content of this node, passing my prompt, and then providing a response. It says, hello Tachi, how can I assist you today? That is how to run an individual node. If you notice, when I ran this, this output node didn't change. And that's because I ran just this node. If I wanted all nodes to be processed, you would run the entire canvas. So if I click that button, the output is then passed over to the output node for me to look at. There's other ways to navigate and interact with the entire canvas. So you can have multiple nodes. So in this case, I have another text input node. Let's go ahead and put another input node here. And you can essentially mix and match. You can connect multiple nodes together. Let me zoom in here. Like that. And maybe I could say, we are currently recording Ryzome Office Hour 2. And so I've passed this content to this new agent, but I've also connected it to this previous agent. And what it allows you to do now is you can have a network of AI agents with their own individual prompts processing either interconnected information or separate information. So if I want to run the second agent, I'll do the same thing. Tell it I want to use the OpenAI model. And then I can say, what are we doing right now? And I can run that. Yep, and you see the response. You're currently recording the Ryzome Office Hours, but that didn't change the output of that. But because I've connected two content into this agent, I can say, what's my name? And what are we doing today? And run that. As you can see, this agent is now aware of two nodes with different content because they're connected to it, and the response is relevant. So let me go ahead and zoom in so you can see. Hi, Tachi, it sounds like you're running Ryzome Office Hours today. So the whole idea is that you can connect multiple content types and content nodes into multiple agents and have an interconnected network of ideas and thoughts and notes. And we think this is a really powerful way to have a way to work with AI agents. And it's much closer to how we humans actually work with information. A lot of times, information is not linear. Information can be scattered. Information is much more spatial. And that's what we're trying to optimize for. So that's a quick recap on the recent changes and updates that we've made to Ryzome and the current state. I'll stop it right there and essentially pass the mic off to Stouffer to see if there's any other interesting things that he would like to share about Ryzome and what's to come.
Yeah, thanks, Tachi. How's my sound now?
Sounds great.
All right. Yeah, so as Tachi just demoed, the current live version of Canvas, I'll be talking a little bit more about what is coming out as early as next week. So the first thing is we've noticed a lot of people are having trouble with API keys, right? So you have to bring your own API key to be able to use a Canvas. So that is now changing, like I said, early next week, where you will get a limited number of free executions, where you won't have to bring your own key, right, just to get you started. These obviously will have some limits. You don't want someone, running 1 million queries and giving us $1 million OpenAI bill, but at the very least, it's going to reduce a lot of friction for, you guys when you want to try out different ideas with the Canvas, different workflows, etc. The second big update that is coming up has to do with MCP servers, and it won't be something that you notice immediately on the Canvas, but we've basically expanded the list of different things that MCP servers can connect to. Right, so in the coming weeks, you'll see a lot more MCP servers for third-party services like Google Cloud, Google Calendar, Google Drive, maybe even Microsoft services or Notion, right? So if you want to pull in some notes and information from those, that will now be possible. And we'll have a tutorial that shows you how to connect to those third-party accounts, right? So you have to allow Ryzome to obviously read your notes that are stored elsewhere, but then you'll be able to use them from the context of the Canvas. And thirdly, and that's a bit more on the short medium term, is we will be updating the Canvas UI itself to make it much easier to use. I don't know, Tachi, if we want to maybe give a little sneak peek of the big update that we're working on. But...
Yeah, of course. We definitely can. I can share my screen if you're ready.
Sure. Actually, let me try to switch back. I'm on my phone right now because I had to update the Discord app. Let me try to get back on the main app.
Okay, and while you're doing that, I'll go ahead and share my screen of the Figma to give a sneak peek on the updates that are coming as well.
Awesome. Be back in 30 seconds.
Mm-hmm. All right. So everyone in this call gets to see what's coming up in the next few weeks. Let's go ahead and close this. So the first thing that we're making significant changes on is the dashboard. We think that this is essentially going to be the home base where you can find the best templates to use, tutorial series, and everything you need to get started. We're doing a massive overhaul on the entire experience so that you can have the most pleasurable, intuitive way to get started right from the get-go. Let me go ahead and see if this works. Awesome. So the first page would be the dashboard, which shows you all the templates that are available with different type of work types. So marketing, connecting files, brainstorming. You would have your projects, which would be completely redesigned as well. And also the side panel will be changed. You have access to your recent files, your pin project, access to the community, which is where we would have the templates marketplace, documentation, and also access to our video tutorials for everything there is to know and do with Ryzome. The second update we'll be providing is a significant overhaul into how to navigate and the entire user interface for the Ryzome Canvas. As you notice, the sidebar is going to have significant overhaul. It'll be much more simple, much more clean. And we're also exploring the concept of unified nodes, where we've discovered that having different types of nodes is very confusing to our users. And so you just have one type of node that does everything. So if you're typing a text, the context of your content determines the behavior of that node. So in this case, you just write in a text and it knows that, okay, this is just a text node, and you can just ask it to do anything. Which means that the AI agent will be baked into all nodes as well. You will also have a much more overhauled, simple to use image node as well, as you can see here. We'll also have ability to do videos and so on and so forth. We've simplified, or at least we're in the process of simplifying the entire experience significantly so that you can get to the aha moment as quickly as possible and you can get to work without having to fumble around and figure out how to navigate and use the UI. We've also working on the different types of edges so that there's a much more visual way to communicate success and failures when you connect nodes together. And also just to increase the dynamic nature of the entire application. Something that you would notice is we're making it simple to select your model and your MCP. We're working on repositioning and redesigning where these configurations are. As you saw in the earlier video demo I gave, there's quite a lot of steps. You have to drop the node, then you have to go to settings, then you have to select the model, and then the MCP, and then your API key. None of that will be there anymore. You would just simply have your node, and when you hover, you'll be able to select the model you want to use and what MCP you want it to use. And that's it. That's all you would have to do. Another thing that we're working on is the ability to essentially, duplicate multiple nodes. We're doing so by giving you the option to have a menu item that you can click and it'll replicate your node if you want to essentially replicate the work that you're doing. There's a few more things that we're working on, but for the most part, we're putting a lot of effort and listening to the feedback that you guys are providing, all of our users, and we're making sure that that we're listening closely and meeting the needs. Another thing I'm really excited, I think a lot of users have provided this feedback is, well, how do I know when something goes wrong? We're also updating the error message system so that it's much more cleaner and not as intimidating as it currently is in the current version of Ryzome. So this and much more is coming very soon in Ryzome. I think this will be in the next iteration or the next release cycle of Ryzome, and we're hoping and excited that users would essentially enjoy these upgrades that we're making to the entire user experience. Let me just go over this again. It's going to be dashboard. It's going to be new node types and new designs for how to work with nodes. It's going to be new connections between nodes and duplications and how to connect to models for your agents. It's going to be how to select your MCPs and how to duplicate nodes. And it's going to be much better intuitive interface that's simpler, clean, and focused on the work itself. So that's coming very soon,
This
guys.
looks awesome. Yeah, this looks really, really cool. I'm super excited. Great job, guys, just from the refinement of everything. It's again, I keep thinking like it needs to be as easy as possible for everyone to be able to build their kind of masterpieces and then to ultimately see what people can build with Ryzome just by giving them the simplistic building blocks. So I think making it. Oh, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, it was the stream. Sorry. Yeah, just giving users the simplest building blocks as possible to kind of build almost like their mind map architecture. Because the way I use AI and the way that I see Ryzome as being super valuable is I have all these different chats. I use Claude, I use Grok, I use Gemini, I use ChatGPT, and I have all these different chats, and they're just kind of like, they're almost just in the abyss, right? Like you go and you talk with, your LLM for hours at a time, sometimes going down an individual rabbit hole. And you kind of forget what you were talking about a few hours ago or days ago or weeks ago. And it's sometimes hard to reference the exact specific things that you're trying to reference. So by having it where you can organize it visually and you can kind of come back to things over and over again and build upon those kind of thought branches and go down different paths and then kind of elaborate, refine, and improve upon your own thinking and your processes is super cool because yeah, it's hard to kind of reference and see everything you've been working with, and then even if you are aware of what you're trying to reference, sometimes the LLM references an older version of something or an outdated piece of information. So I like the editability and the precision of knowing the exact source information and its positioning in each thought branch, and the actions that it's able to take, and then the outputs that it's producing. So yeah, this is super, super exciting.
Thanks for the feedback. That's awesome. We're really excited about it too. um, if I were to ask again, I know you said simplicity. What is something else that you use AI agents for that you foresee yourself being able to do or wanting to do with Rhizome?
It's a good question. I would say image generation tends to be a challenge, just because I kind of go through this process where I'm crafting prompts, and sometimes it just starts to stack its memory in this almost convoluted type of way where it's referencing old prompts that I've given it, and the details kind of get mixed up and muddled versus having the exact prompt and then building out a stepwise process and having it so you have this refined prompt, and it's almost like a production system where you can get um, like more of a consistent output versus it seems to get quite muddled when I build out images, or when I'm even just when I'm building out like I was building out an Airbnb guide the other day, and it was not giving me the output that I was wanting, and it kept referencing old. Um, this is on ChatGPT. It kept referencing old versions of the information about my apartment that I didn't want it to reference, but it just kept referencing it. And then I said, I want this exact version. And for some reason, it was pulling old information. And so having it where I could have the exact info and the exact inputs and data sources for it to pull from, and there's no confusion, and then I can visually see, okay, this is the exact info that I needed to pull, and this is the output that it's giving me, and then I can combine it and architect it in a way where it's more precise. Because I think it tends to skip steps based off of its memory, and it's trying to obviously save computational power, I guess, and it ends up kind of giving you not a complete whole output that you're looking for. So having those stepwise processes where you know the exact data sources that are being input, and you can control that, I think that control will be something that I'd personally want to be using it for. And then also just mapping out my brain,
Yeah.
like just for journaling, right? Like mapping out my mind, different topics, different subjects, different periods of my life. Sometimes you only have so much time to be in a flow state, and you're writing and you're working on a thought, and it's sometimes hard to get back into that or to reference it if it's just lost in your kind of chat logs.
Mm-hmm.
So I think having that architecture, that visual architecture where I can see it, and then I can go back a week, a year, a month later, whatever it is, and start to continue down that thought branch and then see what that produces. And then, maybe it's whatever else is, maybe I need to create images from that. Maybe I need to create guides from that thought. Maybe I want to take action from that thought branch. And I can see actually, like, you can actually like visually see your thinking and the AI's thinking, and how it's been refined over time and improved. So I think that's good for just enhancing your own production as well,
Yeah.
simultaneously with the AI.
Yeah. That makes sense. Kind of wanting to, you know, push back the ship a little bit towards Rhizome specifically as well. I know you've been one of the users, early users of Ryzome. Um, what is one thing, I know even if it's in its early version, what is one thing that you found surprisingly smooth or confusing?
One thing I found surprisingly smooth would be just the connection, and I would say just the visual architecture of it. Like I really thought that was a beautiful thing to actually see, like I said, because my thoughts get, scrambled and I need things to be organized. So I thought the organization and the actual user interface looked super cool, and it excited me. So that was great. I think the thing that again needed to be refined was too many steps, too many friction points, from getting a user to actually comprehending what they can do with this technology, and then actually understanding and getting them to build, and understanding what's possible to be built with it. So I think refining those friction points, which you guys have been doing, and that's amazing. I think refining that, and yeah, making it just removing as many touch points as possible for the user, like removing the amount of actions it takes to get them to be able to build. And yeah, I think that's going to be the ultimate process, right? It's like Apple. It's removing friction points and making it just refined, and making it as simple as possible. So the tech can be heavy on the back end, but you want the user experience on the front end to not even almost like realize what's going on in the back end.
Yeah.
They just have their simple inputs.
Yeah. Okay, that's really good feedback. I guess another question I have then is, you've kind of already touched on this, but just for our annotation's sake, if you could change or add one thing tomorrow, a magic button that says you click this and it happens, boom, what would that be?
Ooh, I think if I could add a magic button tomorrow, it would be almost like there's probably a couple things I would add. I would add that like tutorial guide that could walk users through and really help them just to comprehend their first kind of build and get them understanding what's possible. But then I would also add, I guess that would kind of simultaneously be this tutorial guide as well, or just even just like a floating kind of like node button where you could have the AI analyze your architecture and look for improvements or look for ways to branch out in different ways, where it could actually see what you're building, your systems, your thought branches, whatever you're working on, and it could actually look to optimize it and help you and look at your kind of weak points or where it could be improved. I think that's something I would definitely add.
Thank you. That's great feedback. Have you or anyone on the call tried building something on Ryzome today? Like, and what is that?
Yeah, I've tried building stuff on Ryzome, and I've tried to make it so essentially I've been building out this kind of like council of mentors where I would build out these different archetypes of characters, and like Napoleon Hill, Neville Goddard, those types of characters. I would build out their archetype cards, and then I'm still kind of working on this. It's not fully finished, but essentially I'd build out those archetype cards, and then I would have each of those characters or their brains almost, in a sense. Like I would build out their character card, and I could then have this council kind of give me feedback and almost converse and like summarize each of their opinions on the question or the state of my life that I'm in.
Yeah.
And get feedback individually from them, but then also I'm trying to make it so I can cross-reference and almost have them each steelman an argument from their own position and brainstorm amongst each other. So it's a bit, I'm still kind of working on it, but that's something that I've really wanted to like flesh out and build out even further.
Yeah, I really like that. I do something very similar. It's, authors and writers and philosophers that I really respect. I tend to try to replicate or simulate them and pass my content through and just essentially have like a panel of these experts and have a dialogue within my Ryzome canvas as well. I'm also exploring, kind of like more of the unique, interesting use cases with the MCPs as well. Like I said, one of the things that we're looking into is plugging into Google, like our Google Docs, and I have tons and tons of Google documents because I operate, managing the business and managing the company and managing the team, and a lot of times I just need to pass that into a place and have an AI, essentially, hey, this is a way to optimize this process within your organization. And so that's something else that I'm really, working on building out, and maybe that can make that a template for, people like me who are small business owners and have a lot of content that they want to essentially, streamline with the help of AI. But thanks for that feedback. The last question I have is, and this could be you, Kezo, or anyone on this call. Uh, how would you explain, like from the current state in what you've seen with Ryzome, how would you explain Ryzome to someone, whether a co-founder or a team or someone you meet on the street? And this is open to anyone, really.
I would describe Rhizome as a visual AI architecture builder. I don't know, that's kind of a bit wordy, but a visual AI builder where you can elaborate on thoughts, you can integrate actions, you can essentially, yeah, it's like it's a visual canvas. It's a visual. I mean, obviously that's what it's called, but it's a visual canvas. It's a visual builder that you can essentially lay out all of your thoughts, all of your ideas, refine them, improve them, and then you can integrate actions and connections with other apps through MCP and actually make them so they're your thoughts become actions.
Yeah.
And you can build and fix your systems over time and then optimize them. So
Thank you. I'm curious, like from internally as well, Stouffer, you're one of the chief architects for Ryzome. Like, how would you describe Ryzome to Kezo or anyone on the call right now?
The way I would describe it, I think, is in comparison with the existing tools out there. So I don't know if you guys have, some of you might be coders or developers, but even if you're not, something it's important to know is that the AI coding tools out there like Cursor, Copilot, Claude Code, Climb, they are a lot more sophisticated than your general AI tool like, ChatGPT or Cloud Desktop. To the point where it's like a generation or two ahead, specifically for the developer use case. So to me, what Ryzome is it tries to be the evolution of the simple chat interface to essentially bring the same level of sophistication that AI developer tooling has to people who are not developers, right? People who like to use AI to think. So, yeah, awesome. And then to this extent, the current state of the Ryzome app is, our first attempt at, bringing that sophistication to the end user.
Yeah, I think that's pretty perfect. I'll say so. I think that that's a pretty good wrap up of everything that we're building. Thanks Sulfur and thanks Kezo for the participation and just getting some information out there on what we're doing and what's coming soon. Like Stolford mentioned earlier, one of the biggest feedback we've received is API key and LLM configuration management. So that's number one on our docket. Hopefully next week we'll have that released out, and then we'll be progressively leaking out and releasing improvements to the UI UX, like as I've shown in the Figma file, just to make life a lot easier. And the next feedback call would be in the next 2 weeks. So we try to do this every 2 weeks based on demand. And if there's more demand, we'll do it more frequently. If there's less demand, we'll probably scale it down to once a month. But I really appreciate the time you guys have taken to join this call. I know many of us are really busy, but these moments are very important to us as it helps us refine our product. So thank you all for joining this call. I really appreciate it, and I hope you all have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. All right.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.